Hi everybody, I'm here in Europe. After the Great Europe Flood of 2023, I decided to book a trip here to learn more about some of my greatest enemies. Europe holds a lot of world powers that have led the globe for centuries. We can learn a lot about what makes an empire thrive, what makes them fall, and most important for today, what makes one evil. See, the problem we have with this discussion comes from the inherent concept of good. There's a subjectivity behind what is inherently good or bad, critically and morally. When it comes to the Sour Patch Kids, we're faced with possibly the most invasive, disgusting, and distasteful species biologically engineered to be a harbinger of chaos. By the sick and twisted freaks of Mondales International, we have gummies with the simple premise: first they're sour, then they're sweet. As a candy convention, sure, it's quick, easy, and I like the fruit-shaped ones. Though I prefer Mike and Ike's when they aren't the stale, gross gas station ones. I think about the Mike and Ike breakup arc too often. Like, it's so easy, just a premise introduced in the 70s and getting more into the swing of things as the years progress. However, we succumb to the horrors when they start becoming more commonplace in the turn of the 21st century, as all disgusting things do. And the GameCube. First off, the different kinds of Sour Patches leave me wondering. We got the typical bunch, fruit ones, segregated ones, mutated ones. You can even get a 5-pound bag of watermelon ones that if I had a time machine, the first thing I would do is force a Victorian era person to eat all of it in one sitting just to see the aftermath. Then I would look into doing Mr. Beast challenges during the Great Depression with half the budget because inflation deflates in the past. Like all American snacks, the Sour Patches are creatures forced into life that we all gotta endure. But unlike Cinnamon Toast Crunch or Crave, creatures okay with cannibalism and keeping to themselves, unlike the Pop-Tarts that really added to my seasonal depression last month, and unlike that one bottle of Coca-Cola that simply despises Pepsi, Sour Patch Kids are latched onto our lives and cultures. This is our problem now. Based on what we know about these gummies, but also not really gummies, they possess nothing more than a painful existence where they are objective liabilities to everybody around them. It became so much of an issue that factories began shrinking the creatures because they have some stuff that they were doing beforehand that makes everybody uncomfortable. In the average commercial, they'll do something bad, then they'll do something good to make up for the bad. Maybe the bad thing just looks bad because they'll lay up into a good thing. One problem though, most of the time it's emotionally abusive. What the itty bitty critty critters are doing is gaslighting the public into loving them. I would know, takes one to know one. Consider this ad. A group of high school cheerleaders are practicing their routine. Suddenly, a red kid gets an iconic tickle feather, causing the stacking position to collapse upon itself, which is like super duper dangerous. Very real chance of bruises and broken bones, possibly even death if you land the wrong way. A fall at this height can be extremely bad, if not fatal. But it's okay. It's sorry. Yep, they can fake empathy to try and hug it out as a way to make up for their horrible misdeeds. So that's a whole other issue because, like, that's manipulation. That is bar for bar what controlling someone and their perception of reality is. Like they cut off at least a year's worth of hair off of this poor child. Show no remorse, hug a leg, it's treated like nothing. And they do this every single time. Already what they're doing feels cheap. This is a thin veil of a marketing strategy. I think it remains in your mind for how it's so bad it's good. Like, it devalues into something of value. It's disappointing, and now it makes me fearful of any small bug-like beings with high intelligence. My first instinct is going to be immediately splattering the small creature upon being startled, regardless if they're nice or not. And of course, you can see how that starts to evolve a tad further into the future, but even then, we already have a good amount of question about this group of creatures. Is the plane done? Oh, okay, good, yeah, buy my merch. So after this 2000s era, the Sour Patches would start to get shrunkified. Now, instead of being the Chucky-sized creatures of malice, they're like worse fire ants. Their intentions of violence have been mitigated extremely, and despite being a new generation, we still got some problems to look into. For example, the Sour Patch species as a whole aren't really able to do much dramatic blunt damage. They have transitioned from major property damage and major physical injury to mostly regular property damage and sometimes hurting people for the fun of the game, compensating them to some capacity. When one guy has a stupid, ugly blonde ponytail tied up into a bench before prom, they at the very least set up plans for a limo to pick him up at a bus stop. In this 15-second scenario, I have several questions about how we got here. Like, why is this guy waiting for anything prom-related at a bus stop? This implies he has horrible family life because at the very least he has a corsage. How did the Sour Patches get proper identification or money to rent a limousine? How did this guy comfortably get this entire bench into the limo without harming his scalp or damaging the limo without simply removing the hair not from the bench? This implies he's going to be leaving the vehicle with the bench, which creates even more problems, like that that means he's gonna be coming out of a white limo in checkered Vans in a turquoise suit with a She-Hulk anti-homeless bench locked onto his scalp. This situation confirms the fact that the Sour Patch Kids have not become better. They've simply become less restrained. In the initial ads, their purposes needed to tell us that these are deranged creatures, manipulators, and puppeteers to those who are at their most vulnerable. In contrast, these little creatures do whatever the hell they want. It feels like they're only doing it to feel something. It feels like it's for the benefit of self-pleasure over the facade of tough love. They can regenerate. They have pyrokinetic and cyrokinetic, or Cairo. They have pyrokinetic and chirokinetic powers. They have fire and ice powers used. It's for the fun of the game. They cause anguish in hopes of feeling something. It's gotten so bad that not only are they turning on themselves, ripping each other limb from limb to put them back together, but they've literally had to develop a legal team for the protection of the candy species as a whole and the atrocities they have committed behind those blank faces that know and feel nothing. It's so nothing that nothing is the feeling. Maybe I'm the one who needs those 5 pounds of watermelon patches. For a bit, they got thousands of pieces of video evidence toward the patches harming the greater public with the help of Rudy Gibson. They found themselves somehow getting away with everything, even though it doesn't mean anything to them. And beyond this, I think the most clear-cut evidence comes from the Sour Patch game World Gone Sour that was published by Capcom for some reason. Put the green Sour Patch Kid in Marvel vs. Capcom 4, I promise they'll have a cool moveset. To further these points about the sheer unholy and unpredictable nature that derives from the Candy Children, the only major piece of marketing for this game was a rap done by the Wu-Tang Clan. Imagine your legacy being Method Man rapping about eating your limbs out of a belly bag. And in this game, we learn a lot about the culture of Sour Patch. It's fascinating, if only for the fact it tells us everything we gotta know and why they're doing what they're doing. It's all for a very, very simple goal. Death. They're programmed for the sole purpose of entering the teeth hole orifice and bathing away in our stomach acids until they no longer exist and fade with time. The thing that holds the most concern comes from why the patches are like this. The game follows a couple ones that lead and control the other smaller patch kids, and they can fuse. In addition, they really only cause problems when not being consumed. There's 4 bosses in this game, and each have origin stories to justify their misdeeds. Like, one was skipped on Halloween, so now it controls a jack-o'-lantern. Another was left to rot in the gross corner of a movie theater so they could like Frankenstein a creature with some gum and a jawbreaker, so I guess all candy is sentient now. Why would you do that even if they want to be eaten? This feels like it's legally and biologically invasive. But with that being said, it can actually better explain what the problem we're dealing with is. Because the larger patches do more awful things, it makes me believe that the larger ones are a bunch of hateful ones that didn't get their dreams of death fulfilled, now growing larger and larger into one big blob of hate that torments the innocent. If they can't be happy, nobody can. That's why they gotta do the horrible things like littering at the beach before helping old ladies cross the street without becoming road splatters, watching live leak videos before babysitting, torturing small animals before volunteering to paint at the local church. That one legal ad had a website connected to it that I looked up, and I'm pretty sure almost gave me a virus. This isn't a joke, by the way. This isn't a bit. This was a danger designed to specifically give me a virus. The collabs are just as bad. It leaves a bad taste by association with these individuals. First off, Jake Paul, best known for his appearance on the 2016 Disney Channel sitcom Bizaardvark, shows up like a platonic cupid to ruin relationships, which I guess the Sour Patch Kids endorse. Even worse than that, there's a Chips Ahoy ad where they fuse or something, and this is probably the worst thing so far because I got reminded of that really annoying Chips Ahoy commercial that had a marketing stunt made entirely out of out-of-touch single mothers trying too hard. I'd wish for them being shunned for making the drip is respectable commercials for the cookies that taste like sand, but again, being a single mother is hard. I've tried to be a better person. The job market is skewed against this group, and we as a community need to work better. What am I talking about? So I guess in that case, it's reliant on us if we want to mitigate this from being a crisis. All the problematic patches, the ones shooting paintballs indoors to smash a car only to replace it and make it look like a wacky races vehicle, are all doing it out of self-loathing, personal pity for failing to attain their desired destinies of being consumed. Now, self-loathing is a powerful thing, my friends. It requires balance, inner peace, and comprehension to utilize it in a better manner, to be greater than what you might think by hating yourself. For the Sour Patches, you can't help but feel guilt for all of it. But you also can't not, can? Yeah, because this is a fate that they forced onto themselves with no real way of escaping. They came into the world hoping to fulfill a purpose, but it's not something that you can cheer them on for accomplishing, instead remaining neutral for what is prevented. The Sour Patch Kids are entitled to their objective and try to control and victimize to have their way, something we see far too much in the common day, but at the same time, it wasn't something they asked for per se. They simply recognized that this plane of existence is a painful one where every waking moment has something of harm going on. But that's okay, because I still feel the lingering pain in that one time I punched a saw or slept wrong 15 years ago. But it's totally cool, probably, because let me remind you, the infamous children of the patch, the ones that have brought their pain, discomfort, uprise, and disarray among all other organisms of their very own. They are sour, and then they're sweet, and they have caused more problems than ever thought possible. Went a little off script there at the end. That's cool. I don't really know where to go from here. The view is nice, at least for Europe, I guess.